What do skydiving, home building, and your first kiss have in common? Well, they all depend on doing things in the right order. And building your real estate team is really no different. If you are a solo agent feeling stretched thin and tempted to hire a second agent to just keep up, hit pause. This is the Built to Scale podcast, and today we are breaking down the critical sequence for hiring that can either make or break your business. Hi, I'm Andy Fenstermaker, and I run SKALE for teams. We help real estate teams grow through scalable systems, strategies, and software.
All right. Hey, everyone. Pres McKissack here, co-founder of SKALE, and I've spent the last decade working with real estate teams to help them truly build a business that gives them freedom and options of their time. So with that being said, let's dive into today's episode. Andy, I'm excited. I think we're talking on structure of a team. Is that right?
Yeah. The hiring path and structure of a team. Absolutely. And so I guess the first question is, does structure or hiring order when you set out to build a team, does that matter?
It's a great question. You know what? Let me turn to our audience. Let me ask them a couple questions, Andy. Why does it matter the order? If I'm going to go jump out of an airplane, does it matter if I put on the parachute before I jump out of the plane? Okay, second question. Okay, I'll let you ponder on that one for a second. Second question would be, if I'm building a house, can I build the roof first? Or third question, how about this one? This one hopefully resonates with a lot of you. Think about your spouse. When you first ask your spouse out, why didn't you kiss them before you actually asked them on a date? Now, I don't know. Maybe you're different. Maybe you did. So no judgment here. I'm just saying order does matter, especially when it comes to building a team, for sure.
I'll judge them for that. So, we've talked in the past in previous episodes, and this is why I'm so excited to talk about this today, is that a lot of people would go in for that kiss first. They're like, I want to pull in another sales agent so I can massively expand the production side of things. And we're going to talk a little bit today about why that isn't necessarily the route to go. And I can understand why people might think, hey, like, I can't handle the business that's coming my way. The natural thing to think about is, well, that just means I need another agent.
Yeah. Or on paper, it sounds so good, right? You're telling me that if I go and I can hire a salaried person and I have to commit to paying them a salary, and I don't know if that's going to cost me money, or I can go out and hire a 1099 licensed agent and I don't have to pay them anything, like they're just going to give me half of or more of their money. That sounds way better than hiring a salaried person, right? So on paper, absolutely, I agree with you. I could see why going that path sounds like the best case scenario. It just does not hold true when it comes to building an actually productive and successful team.
Yeah. So where should a team owner, or honestly, in this case, where should a solo agent who is looking to build a team, where should they start?
First place I would start is look at your time, right? If you're starting to get to a place where you think about it like this, I think about when you get into real estate, you have more time probably than you have money. So your biggest challenge becomes, think of it like a seesaw, right? Like the time part is down and the money part the money part is down and the time part is up. Your biggest problem is the money. So I need to go out and produce, make sales in order to get money. But what happens over time is that seesaw tilts, right? It tilts in the other direction. And if you recognize that you're at a place where you have more money than you have time. Like if you're staying up till 11, 12 o'clock at night and you're waking up early and you're killing yourself, it's probably going to start to be time for you to look at leverage. And so what I always say is, I don't think anyone should set out to build a team. I actually think you should set out to buy back your time. That is the best game to play, and I think it gives you total freedom for what your business ends up looking like, because I don't think everyone should build a mega team. I don't think everyone needs to build a mega team. Some of you may just need one admin, and you may make crazy great money and be super successful and be really happy. And other people, you need a big organization to hit your goals and for you to get fulfillment through helping people, transform their lives and helping other people win. So I would say start with that mindset at the very beginning, and then play the buy back your time game. So if we're looking at all the tasks that you have to do, what I am going to ask you to do is to remove the least dollar productive activities first. And if you're doing that math, right, if you do that exercise, what you're going to find is your administrative tasks are the paperwork, if you will, are the least dollar productive things. You can probably, again, depends on where you are in the country, but we're talking anywhere from $15 to probably $30 an hour worth of work. And those are things that should go first, not sales. You shouldn't be handing away leads. You shouldn't be handing away clients. You should actually hand off administrative first. So I would say the first hire, Andy, in the path is to go out and hire a great executive partner.
I hear this a lot with agents as well. And not just agents. I mean, it's any entrepreneur. They talk about executive assistant. So how does that role differ from an executive assistant? What is the difference between an executive partner and an executive assistant?
So very different. I would say three things. Number one is, a couple things at least. Number one would be the vision you lay out for the person on the front end. Meaning like, hey, here's what I'm building, and I'm looking for a partner who can grow with me into other roles potentially. But you have to earn the right for those roles. So that means that you sell the vision of potentially your executive partner could eventually be your director of operations on the team, right? They transition to a different role, like a different leadership role. So I think it's the vision you sell. I think it's the talent of the individual you bring in. And then the third piece that's really critical, ownership. I don't want to be, some people say, who run a team say, oh, everyone on my team is like my customer. I'm here to serve them. Customers are great. We all have to have customers, right, in our world. But I actually think the mindset of the people on your team should not be customer. It should be partner. Partners are better because partners have ownership. So that third piece is they have to own their role. That doesn't mean I'm managing them. I'm leading them. That's very different, and how they show up is very different. So I am looking for an executive partner, not an executive admin. So
we talked a little bit about some of the roles that person might take on, a lot of admin tasks. As they grow, what else may come onto that person's plate as an executive partner before they potentially transition up the chain?
What I like to do is first I need to hand off the things that are low dollar productive activities. If they can handle all of that and they still have capacity, which they should, then I'm starting to look at dollar productive things that I'm not getting to. So you're going to look at marketing. You're going to look at client touches. You're going to look at database events. You're going to look at managing your brand and your social media. Like those would all be things that I would definitely have on their plate to make sure that we are both driving high productivity for the team owner, but also highly leveraged dollar productive activities for the team or for the business.
One thing that you said there is that stood out to me is that I'm not getting to. And what I think about then is, one, you recognize its importance. It's an important task that needs to be done. Two, you're not getting to it, which probably means that it's not something that fills your bucket. It's not something that excites you. So marketing could excite you. That could be your wheelhouse. That might not be the thing that you're going to give away. You're going to give away something that doesn't fill your bucket, something that's not getting done, that really does need to get done, or that you're not able to put your heart into.
For sure. And I think you got to pay attention too to what is your executive partner's unique abilities? Like what are they good at? And I would be looking for someone in that role who is not just behind the scenes, but can also be client facing in a sense, and meaning they can talk to people. Right? Like you wouldn't feel embarrassed or bad if they were out and sort of in the forefront communicating with people in your world, because that's going to open up a lot of doors. And it's also going to influence as we move to the next level, Andy, what's the next thing that you give away. And so you're going to both look at what is the next least dollar productive thing to give away and what is not in my executive partner's unique abilities. Those would be like the next things you're going to look at.
And one thing I want to jump in and say, because we're talking about unique ability here and we're talking about roles, and when you're looking for that person, our tendency tends to be like we gravitate, like attracts like, right?
For sure.
In many cases, in not all cases, magnets, they kind of oppose each other. But if you're looking to give away certain things in the future, the more you can look at finding that person that those things actually fill up their bucket, that's who you want to look for, especially in that executive partner role, right? Because like if you're really into the marketing side of things and you love being on doing those tasks, and so does that person, there's going to be a little bit of a butting of heads, potentially. But if there's certain tasks that you're looking to give away, finding that person who really thrives in that environment doing those things, you're going to be so much better off giving them complete ownership.
Andy, on that point with that executive partner, here's a couple keys to success. Number one, you schedule a weekly meeting one-on-one with that person, and you rarely, if ever, miss it. This is one of the biggest challenges I see when people start to build a team, is as soon as they add leverage, they're not great at keeping appointments with themselves, and that then gets translated to other people. And so I've even seen some agents who have the best of intentions, meaning they have all this business that's coming their way. And so they're like, oh, I'll just take this appointment during this 1 hour time slot with the executive partner, and I'll just move them to a different time. And then what happens is they don't get rescheduled, they get moved. What does that tell your executive partner when you move them week after week after week? It tells them they're not important. It tells them that they don't matter. It tells them that their role on the team is not as relevant as yours. And so I would highly encourage you, set a time block and make it a as best you can an immovable object in your schedule. Or if you absolutely have to move it, you reschedule it to a different time, because that person needs that time significantly to get with you, because you are a moving target, and that's a good thing, right? That's actually a superpower you have. However, they do need time with you. And so you have to make sure that you can give them the time. And if you'll do that one thing, gosh, you will set yourself up to win at such a high level if you have the right talent in that role. And it'll also allow you to have accountability with them to make sure you're getting results. Because if you're not getting results, then why do we have the person in the first place?
Yeah, precisely. What I love about this conversation and having, touching on all of these things right here is we're still just talking about that first level. We're talking about the foundation of your business. So getting into the habit of doing these things at this level is going to set you up for success as you continue to grow. So that being said, let's look at the next batch of things that you're going to give away and move off of your plate.
Yeah, typically that's going to be when your executive partner is maxed out. They are handling all, you have handed off as many non-dollar productive activities as possible, and they are now tapped at what they can do, and they are getting overloaded. At that point, typically, you're going to offload transaction management onto a new hire, or if that's your executive partner's skill set, then they might take on that job task, and then they might bring on someone who's handling more administrative, marketing, database touches, things like that. So again, this is why we said earlier, you pay attention to your executive partner's talents, and that will influence who that second hire ends up being. And that may look like a transaction coordinator. It could look like a listing manager. Roles like that would be where you start to offload transaction management. So I always go back to the most relevant book in our space, which is The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That book is as relevant today as it was when it was written in the early 2000s. In fact, my family was in that book and they followed that model to, we've talked before about my family selling their real estate team for 7 figures. Very few people have actually done that. How did they do that? Well, they met this really smart guy, and he wrote a book, and they were influenced by his teaching, and they did what the book said to do, right? So this is the path. I always think that you should try as best you can to bring on 2 administrative roles and make yourself so highly productive and earn the right to have, now that you have structure and value and you've offloaded things off of your plate, earn the right to go start to hire sales agents into your world.
And that's really the next level in this list. And by the way, one, I'll put a link to the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book in the description. And 2, I'll have a link off to our hiring path, our real estate team blueprint down in the description as well. So the third group is really what you're saying. It's sales agents. It's now, after we've made these other hires, we can finally look at the sales agent side of things.
And what I will say here, Andy, is some teams are experimenting here with the idea of actually again, if you just follow in your head, like what's the next thing that's taking my time, it's the least dollar productive. Some teams are working to offload showings, and so they're bringing on a showing agent or a showing partner. I've seen that be hit or miss, whether teams are actually able to succeed with that role. I think if you can, it's great because you're now leveraging off the actual showing of buyers. And again, you're just making yourself all the more productive. The math would tell you, and this is what I'll say about building a team. I just think about it like following the math. That's all I think about. How I just want to net the most amount of money, have the least amount of headaches, and build a great foundation for a strong culture and team. That's the end of the day. That's what I'm trying to build. If you follow the math, a showing agent, you will net more money than if you just go and bring, a bunch of sales agents and, they're sucking your time out of sales potentially. And so the math would tell you a showing agent. However, a lot of teams aren't doing that, and that's okay. I'm not saying that it has to be that. So really at this level, we're talking sales agents where you're bringing in people who are actively working with leads. They're probably working buyers, and they are definitely working buyers, and they may or may not be working on listings as well.
As you start to add agents, is there a sweet spot in terms of the agent count before moving on to the next level, or is once again it's just following the math?
I think you just follow the math and you look at the talent you have. The better question is, how many leads can your agents handle? Right? Once I start to add a few salespeople to the team, 1, 2, 3 salespeople, I'm then starting to shift my focus from, okay, I've got sales is going. How do in my opinion, I want productive people, right? I want productive agents. I don't want an agent on my team who does 2 deals. Not that that's a bad thing. I know teams who sort of run it more like a church. And they've got people who do 2 deals a year. They've got people who do 20 deals a year. And that's okay. Now, there's nothing wrong with that by any means. As long as they're the right cultural fit and they add value to the team and, you're clear on what, sort of how your organization is structured. But my philosophy is I want more productive people. So I'm now going to start to ramp up the lead gen. I'm going to figure out how to increase my lead flow to make sure that I'm adequately feeding the people. And then when they are tapped is when I know that I need to go bring on another salesperson into the team to start to give leverage to them because they can only handle so many leads, right? And same thing for the admin team. At this point, you sort of you've got operations running and you have sales running. And you start to play the game of how much can they handle? And so what I have found, and I would challenge you, highly productive teams, their admin team can handle a lot more than you think they can. And where I see teams really get in trouble, Andy, is where they have maybe a less talented admin team and they let that admin team dictate that they need more people and they go add more people and then market starts to shift or their business starts to slip and they're not playing red light, green light with their expenses. So their expenses went up with administrative salaries, but their revenues are going down because either a shift or production's down or whatever. And I've watched many teams get in trouble and try to Band-Aid even more by saying we just need another admin role. And I will tell you, top teams that I work with and that I look at, they are highly efficient and they run lean and mean. And what's really cool, Andy, that I'm watching teams do today is they're going out and they're hiring virtual assistants and putting them around their admin team to act as leverage for them to be able to be even more productive and to help them buy back their time, because that's way more cost efficient to go pay whatever it may be, $1,000 to $2,000 a month for a virtual assistant than it is to go hire another full-time salary role, right? I can hire a couple of VAs for what it would cost me to hire one full-time admin role. And so I'm seeing teams do that to give their even more leverage and more, firepower to their administrative hub.
When would we look at the next level up or so forth, which would be inside sales, lead generation, that kind of thing?
Yep. And this one's an interesting one because I know a lot of really successful teams that don't have a inside sales team. And let me clarify for those who don't know, when I say inside sales, what I mean is someone whose job on the team is to work leads and convert those into appointments and then pass those appointments to agents. Some teams pass appointments, and which is great because you can charge more for that. And some teams are just having someone to just work dead leads and get them to a place where they're revived and then handing them off to the agent. So I've seen different models for that. But what's interesting is not every team a lot of teams that I know that are very successful don't have an inside sales agent. And that's okay. I think what I've learned about inside sales is if you can have it and nail it, it's really effective and you can scale like crazy. And you can make more money because if you can figure out how to pass out appointments instead of leads, you'll make more money. The math will tell you can charge more, right? And you have more control whether someone stays or whether someone goes. So that's a great model. It's easier said than done. I know that's many teams who've tried and failed at that role. And it's one of those things where it's sort of probably the newer of the roles in the real estate world. But if you can figure it out, it's highly effective. So I would say once you start to add some sales agents and you've got your admin hub running, I would look at the inside sales model and figure out, because really when you break down a team, Andy, there's 3 components. You're going to start with admin, and that should be the heartbeat of your team, your admin hub. Then you're going to go add some sales roles into the team. And then you're going to add a lead generation hub, right? And again, every team might look a little different, but the math would tell you if you can figure out how to have an inside sales agent or a couple, that is highly effective for generating more leads, generating more appointments, and helping increase sales on the team.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. And I'm going to just throw this out there that these episodes are not business advice. We are not telling you to go do these things specifically in the order that we are telling you to do them, but having worked with hundreds of teams, this is what we have seen work for teams. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and like I said, there's no. I have seen many teams come in many different forms. I feel confident to tell you that the order in which you remove things off of your plate and hand jobs to other people is pretty sound. I mean, sound and proven, whether you read the MREA book or you look at successful teams today. And I always leave room for that. There's not always one size fits all, and there are unique cases where, you don't have inside sales teams and you're super successful. And in fact, a lot of teams run that way. And so there's no one size fits all, but there definitely is a hierarchy of jobs to hand away and how you choose to leverage those and who you choose to leverage those to.
Precisely. Cool. And there's really as we go through this, we've talked about, executive assistant, executive partner. And I mean, you could even early on potentially even have a VA that takes a little bit off of your plate, but that's, you're not even really looking at a team you're looking at just a solo agent with a VA.
Andy, many people the first thing they leverage is to a transaction coordinator that doesn't work for their team. It's just contract labor. And that's a great solution. My wife and I did that when we started out. Like she learned real quick. She was horrible at paperwork, and that was not a good use of her time. It only took her to screw up like the first contract for her to realize that was a much better plan. So that's a great. There are, to your point, and probably it's where we should have started on this. You should leverage you should look at your household first, honestly, before you even think about building a team. Why don't you add some leverage to your life? Why don't you look at adding someone to clean your house once a month or once a week, right? Those things like that. How about you look for a babysitter to allow you to go out with your spouse and have a date night once a month? Like I would look there first before I start to leverage for a team.
Yeah, as a dual career agent, like that's the first thing that I'm looking at is getting some of that paperwork off. It's that transaction management, the contract transaction management. But to go off of your point, looking at your life, the key thing there is don't just do it to do it. Take the time that you are replacing with something that is productive. Like you said, it could be taking your spouse out. It could be putting it into your business. It's those kinds of things. It's not, hey, I've just got myself another hour and a half to say that's a whole movie.
That's right.
Or
that's
3/4 of a movie.
Yep.
It's filling it with the right thing.
For sure. The challenge with doing what you just said, Andy, is if you don't start to replace your time you're buying back with productive things, it's going to stunt your ability to continue to grow, and talent in your world will look up and say, they're not driving this forward. They're not like you. They're not the pioneer. They're not the person who's going to make my life bigger. And again, talent only leaves when they look up and there's no more opportunity, or the opportunity they want is yours and you're not moving. So the moment talent starts to sniff that out, they're going to leave you. And then you're going to have turnover, and you're not going to be happy because you're going to get all the jobs back.
Yep. And you just teed that right up so nicely, because that goes to the last step in this hiring path, which is CEO.
Yep. And this is sort of what I would say is sort of the placeholder. When I say CEO, you can also, like, this is where I see a team, they start to add a director of sales, a director of lead generation, maybe early, at this point or maybe earlier, they've sort of promoted someone to the director of ops. That's typically the first leadership role that I see on a team. And then eventually, potentially, you bring on a true CEO on the team. So in terms of responsibilities, what are you actually handing off of your plate? At this point, you will think about it like this. You've handed off all the administrative tasks. You've handled off all the transaction management. You've handled off, a ton of leads, a ton of sales, right? You've handed off lead generation tasks. And truly, you're probably spending your time at this point before you bring on a CEO. You're waking up every day to find talent, add more talent to the team, or you are coaching and consulting your people in order for them to go out and win. And at some point, you might also still be, and you're likely also still in production. So those three things. This is the point, though, where you're probably not working with buyers, and the only thing you really are doing are taking listings. And at some point, you may or may not choose to leverage out of listings and truly out of production. And I know a handful of teams that do this. I will tell you, I also know a lot of teams who've tried this and failed. It's, again, easier said than done. And I don't recommend everyone should step out of production. Some people may get to this level, and it's better for them to stay involved in sales and continue to run the team. For others, though, who truly have mastered building a team, they go out to find a CEO to truly run the business. And then what they do, this is what my family did. Linda stepped out of production, and they hired Brad to come in and run the team. And all they did was spend 1 hour a week with Brad, coaching and consulting him on growing the team and running the team. They reviewed the P&L every month, and they held him accountable to the success of the team. They then went and took their spare time and went and built a real estate empire, and went and took their time and spent it in other productive areas. And what happened eventually, they played that game. Their real estate team became the last of their income, where it was their first highest income that they earned. It became the last, and they replaced it with other things. And that's why eventually they chose, instead of keeping the team, that Brad had earned the right to buy the team. And so they sold the team to Brad.
Yeah.
So that's sort of that would be the flow, right? And so if you're going to replace the role, know that you're going to go backwards in income because you're making probably a good amount of money from taking listings. So what are you going to go do to replace that income with? Are you going to build another business? Are what other opportunities are you going to step into? Because if all you do is step back, just be aware your income will go down, and depending on how much you're making, that may be okay, or you may need to go replace that income with another opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of wraps up those kind of 5 steps of the hiring path and what order they fall in. Any final things before we wrap up this episode?
I would just say set out to not to build a team. Set out to build a life, and then set out to get clear on the amount of money, so aka build your business, and then from there earn the right to build a team, and do it from a goal of transforming lives and helping others. Don't do it from a goal of making more money. And I think if you do those things and then you follow the path we've laid out here, and you read books like the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and you take to heart and you understand the math behind it, then it really just becomes what jobs can I hand away? What's the next job for me to hand away? And the more successfully you do that, the more money you'll make.
Yeah. And I can't remember what the quote is, or who said it, but it's we underestimate what we can accomplish in 10 years, but overestimate what we can accomplish in 1. Is that right?
I think it's Tony Robbins, and he says we overestimate what we can do in a year, and we underestimate what we can do with a powerful 5 years of focus.
Yeah. And I think I've heard it framed a few different ways as well. So when you're talking about setting a vision for your life, you're looking 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down. What do you want that to look like? And then building it back and building it from there.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the same model you should use with people on your team. When you bring them into your world, get clear on the front end, even before you bring them in. What's their vision for their life? Where are they going? And can you help them get there? And if they don't have a vision that excites you, or you can't help them get there, don't get in business with them.
Yeah. And it's not easy work. Setting a vision, it really requires you to go deep on what your core values are, what your mission is in life, all of those things. And for a lot of people, that's not an easy task.
For sure. Yeah. Taking time, we call it white space, is not easy for people to create, especially busy, hard-charging type A entrepreneurs. And yet the best things tend to come in the quiet moments. So give yourself the permission to have those moments. And I bet you spend a little time on your vision and where you want to go. I believe the universe will align dominoes for you to push over and for you to go after it and ultimately achieve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's a great place to end. I'm going to circle around with a couple final thoughts, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
All right, talk soon.
So if you are losing time, if you're losing sleep, or just losing steam, it might be time to rethink how you're building your team, starting with buying back your time, not necessarily handing off clients. The structure you set now becomes the foundation that your business will grow on. So choose wisely, hire intentionally, and always lead with clarity. As always, follow along, subscribe, like, etc. You can find us on all the socials. You can like us on YouTube. You can follow us on podcast platforms, and we will see you in the next episode.